breakfast of the board, and we first of all want to thank Autumn Ridge Middle School for hosting this morning. Yes, yay. Rosalind and her team, Donnie, did a great job of presenting both the culture and the spirit and the building of Autumn Ridge on a late arrival day. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for Karen and Trey for getting breakfast from Ridge Creek to Autumn Ridge. We appreciate that too, Florida. Sometimes it confuses people. We have campuses with similar names. And so today we're excited to present to the board sort of the comprehensive, multifaceted literacy approach that we are embracing in Humble ISD. It is unlike the literacy approach you would see anywhere else. I have been in 4 different states. I've worked with superintendents across the country. I will tell you that the way that this team over here has taken the professional development, the tool itself, the TEA requirements, and special funding in Comp Ed, and aligned all of them systemically to the very best practice for teachers and for students and the best interest of our students is really revolutionary. And as a result of that, their work speaks for itself. But groups of students who since 1999 have really not been able to catch up or keep up with their peers, we're starting to see a change. And so we're very excited about that. So I would like to introduce, am I introducing Ann or Lucy? I'm introducing Ann. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Ann Johnson, who's our Chief Academic Officer for Humble ISD, and the sort of grandmaster of literacy. Right? Yeah. That's like the other duties as assigned part of Chief Academic Officer. She does everything else too, but really has done a tremendous job of transitioning a very large district and improving the overall quality of literacy for students. So, Ann.
What an introduction. I mean, that was wonderful. But it's all because of you. I've been in a number of other districts too, and I've never been in a district where we really had the opportunity, because of leadership and vision, to be able to put it all together. So you should be giving yourself a hand right here. When I came to the district 6 years ago, what I found, I did a lot of focus groups because I like to talk to people. I just like to hear where people are. I did focus groups with principals. I did some with students, teachers, instructional coaches, talked to many of the leaders in the district. And there were a couple of things that really stood out. One of them is people were extremely frustrated with the computerized-based assessment system that was being used for the younger kids, which was a screener. I won't mention the name right now, but a lot of issues with it because kids were just clicking through. Little ones, we had a number of students, particularly if we had our special ed students, they couldn't use it. And so we did not have good data on them. The other thing is when we really dug into it, we found out that, this was always something that I marveled at, we got into fluency. Fluency is accuracy, expression, it's really the pacing of how you read. They assess fluency by how quickly you can answer test questions. So I just thought that was probably not reliable and valid. The other thing that was intriguing was the number one thing they talked about was they felt like there was inconsistency in the literacy instruction. And a lot of that was due to all the changes that had happened in the district. There had been a person here evidently prior to me coming who had done some balanced literacy. A number of the schools loved it, wanted to continue it. Some of the others had newer staff and they were kind of doing different things. So there was some consistency across the district. So what we did is this. I had been in a district where we actually had taken the 5 critical components that are foundation in literacy. And what we did is we put together, we developed our own assessment system. Not like this one. In fact, it was a very infant one compared to this. But what we did, the predominant thing was it was teacher to student. Because we know that the teachers are the best assessors. And we want those teachers really working hand in hand with our kids and being able to really determine what their strengths are, what their targets are for growth so that we can really personalize instruction, which is one of the visions of this district, one of the aspects of the vision. The other thing is, when we developed them, I was actually in that system for 11 years, and we saw a tremendous growth. We saw tremendous growth. And not only in our regular classrooms and in our schools, but also in our low socioeconomic kids. In fact, those students were performing so well, we had to increase benchmarks, which was a great story and was one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this. When I came here, I talked to my team, talked to other people, and I brought the idea in, and they said, let's take a look at it. And so they sat with me. I did bring one of the people that had helped develop them in that district out to at least give some information. But we totally revamped it. We made it humble. And we actually put those together, K-3. The first year when we did intensive training because we wanted the inter-rater reliability. We wanted the fidelity and how they're administered, because that's what you need if you're going to use those assessments to really give you solid data. I will tell you it wasn't without a little pushback, because it was different. And it takes a while. Anytime you learn something new, it just takes a little time. But I will tell you, when teachers got in and saw the data that they could use with their students to really inform instruction for each one of those students, the conversation changed. So anyway, you have seen some of that data. We also, 2 years ago, added 4th and 5th grade. We piloted it 2 years ago, and last year was the first full year of data. The other thing we're excited about is that last year we added it to middle school, into the reading strategies classes, to really help those students. The other thing I'm very excited about, and I have to applaud the board for doing this, and some of you were on at that time. After the first couple of years with the assessment system, you invited Senator Huberty and Commissioner Marath out to take a look at it. And I'm very proud of our staff because they were so impressed. They came out and took a lot of our stuff and actually integrated a lot of it in the reading strategies. But the other thing was, with working with Dr. Fagan, she had worked with them to be able to loosen some of the requirements that we had to do, because we actually had better data than some of the requirements. So with that, I'm going to transition to Netta Whitaker, who is our Director of Elementary Curriculum, and she's going to share a few more things about the literacy assessments, but also show how the Reading Academy fits into this.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. So I want to explain to you what our literacy assessments are. Our assessment system is a K-5 assessment that measures a student's comprehension, word reading accuracy, fluency, phonemic awareness skills, sight words, and concepts about print. So phonemic awareness is the ability to hear and manipulate sounds. The reason that's so important is because it's a critical foundational component in the process of learning to read. So what we've done with those assessments is we've started to look at one-to-one assessment, the student to the teacher to the student, and during that assessment, the teacher is able to really look at a student's reading behaviors. How does that student perform while reading? So it gives us more information than just what's in black and white. What strategies the student's using while they're reading. That helps the teacher to really analyze the data and create a targeted, personalized instructional plan for that student, and this is why we see so much growth with our students. So in 2018, when we developed these assessments, it was right during the time of our literacy instructional materials adoption. We were able to marry our balanced literacy approach, our vision for balanced literacy, to our instructional materials, to our assessment system. So everything's completely aligned, which helps us to see so much success in our campuses right now. So we have a data analysis process that really helps at every level. At the teacher level, it looks like a teacher analyzing those running records, analyzing the assessment data, determining a student's strengths and their needs, and then creating that personalized plan for that student. Between the teacher and the parent, the teacher is able to talk directly to a parent about what goals they have for that student, what that student needs, what the teacher's going to do as an action plan to support that student, and then how can our parents help and support at home so it provides so much clarity and partnership between that teacher and student. And at the campus level, that data analysis process looks like a sitting with our campus leadership teams, to talk about what teachers are needing first. We look at that data holistically and say, here are some things where your teachers could use some support. We're going to jump in and support them. And then we look at what it looks like from teacher to students. What can we do to help our teachers build that knowledge for our students? And then what can we do as a campus, maybe to enhance systems and structures to support teachers and students? So when we look at what we do in Humble ISD, everything we do, we filter it through our district vision for high quality instruction. Everything we do. When we heard about the state mandated reading academies, we didn't stop that work. We filtered it through what we believe to be high quality instruction, specifically high quality instruction and balanced literacy. What we did was we married the state content to our vision, our assessment system, and our instructional materials, and we call that the Humble Bridge sessions. Very unique, so our teachers were able to take all that content from the reading academies, come to our Humble Bridge sessions, and apply it to our resources and our vision. When we first rolled this out, we had almost 900 participants of teachers, and this year, we have almost 400 teachers, with over half of them being voluntary 4th and 5th grade teachers. They are not part of that state mandate. So they are committed to their learning, and how this ties to the literacy assessment is they're able to use that deep content knowledge they're learning in the reading academies, the instructional materials that we provide in our vision for balanced literacy, and the data analysis process from the literacy assessments to dig deep in those targeted plans for students and provide students the knowledge and content that they need. Okay. So Lucy's going to introduce our speakers.
So what I want to add to is the easy thing would have been to buy a canned program. There's lots of them out there. I've used them as a teacher. I used them as a principal, and that would have been the easy thing to do for us. Here's the manual, let's follow it. But that would not have had the capacity building and the sustainability that we have seen that this system allows to reach all of our students. And that's what we want to show you today with our special guest speakers, is how with this system we developed with teachers. Today's final product isn't where it started. It was a constant feedback loop and cycle where we piloted with teachers, we went out, we watched them give these assessments, we value their input, took their feedback, and made those adjustments and tweaks to it. And so we're very proud of that work. It was hard work, and we appreciate it. And what Ann and Netta didn't share is that every year, teaching and learning come together, and they have to train and onboard our new teachers. And we look at enhancing that work. We give refreshers for our veteran teachers who's been doing this for a couple of years, because there's so much on our teachers' plates now. There's a lot. And it is extremely important that we keep this work at the forefront of what we do, so then they are able to give these assessments, analyze that data, and then they're able to personalize and inform instruction for every kid in their classroom, every student in our district, K-5. So we're very proud of that work. So we're going to have some teachers, but first we're going to have kind of a leadership perspective. What does this look like from the principal lens? Our teaching and learning department, they don't stop with just the PD in the ISD as well. They are there in our campuses working alongside our principals, our instructional coaches, which are a critical piece of the success of this. So we appreciate and we value that resource in staffing for instructional coaches. They are a big part of this. And the teachers, they work right alongside us in that. So you'll see our teaching and learning specialists all throughout our building. And so I'd like to introduce Ms. Annette Neverman. She's our principal of Lakeshore Elementary, who's going to talk about kind of her journey with the literacy assessment and the great work she has done.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right, so part of the role of a principal with literacy is to set direction for the campus. We had a focus for literacy over the past several years. We wanted to have a very clear, consistent goal that all students would show growth in reading. So there were several things we put in place to make sure that we support this goal. We focused on reading during planning sessions. We tailored each session to meet the needs of the team. Our instructional coaches, they worked with our new teachers. My walkthroughs and observations were on reading. Everything was reading. I could see the shift and the focus in our classrooms. We were making some gains. So we had our very first ELAS testing at the beginning of the year, and our data was a little low. So I thought, well, let's keep the course, keep the pace, and then maybe middle of the year we'll see our improvements. And so we took our ELAS tests in the middle of the year, and we still didn't quite see the gains we wanted. So at that point we thought, we've got to do something. This data is bad. So we put some action steps in place. We, my assistant principal and I, we had one-on-one meetings with every single teacher to look at their data and have a plan and personalize that for our students. We also, during our planning sessions, would do a real quick call out of our running records, and that's something you do in between the ELAS testing. So we would talk about our below-level students, our on-level students, and our above-level students very, very quickly. Kind of looks something like this. A teacher would say, I have 4 below level, 10 on level, and 5 above level. And we did that every single week. So, as you can imagine, you wanted to make sure your students were moving, and that was the focus and the goal. So that really did help and work. We also partnered with the Teaching and Learning Department and Netta and her team. We worked on calibrating our data to make sure that it was accurate and we were getting the results that we thought we were seeing in the classrooms. We also implemented some just real quick PDs that we could do during our planning sessions to shore up some areas that were in need. And then during our full day PD days, we worked with Netta's team to make sure that we could personalize our PD plan for teachers. This past year, our instructional coaches, they partnered in the pilot for the high quality instructional tool, and this really upped our instructional coaches' game. I could see them using coaching questions in all areas during planning, in side conversations with teachers, and not only during that coaching cycle. So that really helped as well. I could see them hone in and really target our new teachers and be very specific with a personalized plan for their work. So that was amazing. So now this year, we are going to continue those one-on-one meetings with our teachers after the middle of the year. We also have data meetings that we have in our Lemon Lounge, where we talk about data using our running records and our ELAS data monthly. So finally, our efforts are paying off. No longer is our data an outlier in the wrong direction. Our data is pretty good. So we went from 67% approaching grade level STAR in 2021 to 80% approaching last year. And so in all areas, we saw improvement. In 2021, we had 36 students in 3rd grade fail STAR, but the next year, 2022, we had 27 fail. In 2021, we had 39 3rd graders approach grade level, but in 2022, we had 25 approach grade level. In 2021, we had 20 3rd graders meet grade level, but by 2022, we had 31. So that's a better score. I'm most proud of this data. In 2021, we had 11 students showing mastery, and then in 4th grade, we had 23 showing mastery. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what these now 5th graders are going to do in their performance. And really, it's because we've been able to personalize, use this data to make really good decisions for our kids.
And just for the board, approaches on STAR is actually grade level.
Right.
So it's passing, it's meet, it's grade. We don't know why they label it that way, but it is what it is.
I have a question. I don't know, maybe this is a question for Dr. Johnson or maybe Ms. Ahurst, but when you're looking at, you were talking about, Ms. Denver was talking about the data. Does the data help you focus on where the issues lie if you're not happy with what the results are looking like at X point in time? Does it tell you, well, it might be the quality of the instruction and that the teacher, classroom needs whatever to, or is it because the students came in at such a low level from the preceding class? How does it help you to because I imagine that's part of the issue too, and does it help you see that and how you can give the help to?
It does, and it does on multiple levels. We have a data analysis process that looks at the root cause analysis, why are students performing at a lower level. We look at trends to look at the whole grade level. We look at the campus scale, and then we can even look at the individual student and pull their learning record and see, okay, they're performing well when it comes to comprehension. Specifically, they summarize well. Specifically, they retell well, but they really aren't reading these words accurately. This is where the errors are, and this is how we can instruct them. So it drills down from the campus scale to grade level down to what's going on with that individual student.
Okay, I get that on the students, but so does it help you at all with the teacher in terms of what the teacher might need in additional instruction themselves to be a better teacher?
Yes, when we look at the root cause analysis, it's looking at the teachers. Yes, it's saying what do teachers need? Do they need to maintain instruction? Do they need deeper content knowledge? Is it that their delivery is off? Do they have the content knowledge but they're not delivering it properly? So we drill down to root cause analysis.
I just never, in the other presentations in the past, like I've never heard you guys talk about that. I just kind of wondered, like,
Well, think about this. This root information gives Lynette the information she needs to go in and observe a classroom teacher. She knows exactly, like, I know what my kids are weak in. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to see how this teacher is teaching this skill.
That's what I wanted.
Yes, this is outstanding. I wish I could have had this 20 years ago.
We marry the data to what they're seeing in instruction. That's why the conversation is so important, because we're looking at root cause analysis and we say, well, what do you see when you go into the classroom? Is that accurate? And then we develop a plan together.
All right. Well, that's good to know, because like I said, I've never heard that talked about, and I'm not an academic, so I wouldn't have known to just assume, okay, that's part of that. So that helps. That's good. That helps.
Yeah, and I think it was actually, that was probably before when you were on the board, when they gave the presentation with Commissioner Morath, it included all of that background information. So I think that's good to reshare.
Because we submit the data into our Humble portal that again is developed by us, and it has a multitude of reports. And data analysis just doesn't happen. So last principal meeting, we had a data analysis learning session and looked at reports, and we talked through how we analyze that data. And it does give information for leaders to go in, and then they do observe, and does it match what I'm observing? And it's just a good conversation. I think Ms. Zimmerman talked about having those one-on-ones with the data in front with the teacher. Powerful in that.
Real quick, on that same note, where does the instructional coach fit into this? I mean, because we're talking about data, we're talking about, I'm not even talking about appraisals and all that stuff. Who gives a rip? I'm talking about, you know, how are we supporting those classroom teachers with the instructional coaches?
That's a great question. I meet with my instructional coaches every single week. We talk about what our teachers need, and we formulate a plan. And it's to support our teachers. And so that means sometimes, hey, I see this teacher doing a great phonics lesson, and this teacher needs to go watch that. So we do whatever we can to support and build tools for our teachers. They go through coaching rounds. They use questions to help our teachers think and process what they can do differently. And it is always a growing process and learning to see how we can support our teachers.
They also assist in planning, so if they're looking at a running record and a student is not doing well on accuracy, that instructional coach says, here's some resources, or let's pull this out. I think this will help the student be able to achieve that goal that you're working on with it, and assist them with that.
And I mentioned that high-quality tool that we use. That is very, very specific to helping them in the classroom with their instruction, also with the environment in the classroom, because that environment, the behavior, the engagement has to be in place for the instruction to take place. So it is a process that kind of works together. If one is off, the other is not going to be as effective. So those tools really, really help our teachers become even better.
Okay, thank you.
They're very valuable to us. And it does start with the culture of coaching. So that was our first step a couple of years ago. Foster that, because nothing else works until you have that good, healthy culture of coaching. So one of my most proud initiatives that we have done here in Humboldt ISD is the Dubstep Classrooms. We called it a couple of different things as we were fumbling around at the beginning, so you may have heard it say, but we've kind of landed on Dubstep Classrooms. And so how this happened is many times we get these different buckets of money and they say, you got to spend this money, here's your new allocation, do it by this date, which is pretty quick, at this percentage, and if you don't, we're probably going to take it back. And so in my past professional experience, many times we would go grab us the latest, greatest student workbooks, those test prep books, maybe a few laptops, throw in there, classroom supplies, because we didn't want to lose the funding. But with this initiative, we decided, you know what, it's important that we allocate our funding in Humboldt ISD that aligns to our priorities and goals. And so for the first time, we developed a system-wide personalized approach. And what I mean by that is all students, every single kindergarten through 5th grade student is represented up here in this chart. And let me explain how that happens. We believe there are factors that impact students beyond their control, that impact their ability and the rate to learn. And so we looked at every single student and we assigned them a point, if you will. So students could have 0, they could have 7 points. And we aggregated that up as a classroom. So every teacher has about 20 or so students. And so every student was assigned a point, and then we aggregated that up, and every classroom had a load set, which is what you have here. Every classroom, kindergarten through 5th grade, represented across the district. So we have classrooms that have 0 points in them, and then we have classrooms that have 65 points in them. But this teacher, one teacher, has 20 students, and this teacher has 20 students. They're the same, right? No, they are not the same. And teachers, we've known that for years. You just didn't have a way to mathematically assign it, which is where we have what we have done now.
Those represent what you said, every campus and every classroom on every campus?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So for an elementary school, there's 10 campuses, there's 10 dots for those, and they're...
10 classrooms, yeah.
Okay, and they could be on the same campus. One classroom could be up there with
Yeah.
blue, and one could be green. It's because of the makeup of the kids in the class and how you assign them, right? Because I remember you explained this all to us when we talked about it, and
Yes.
you know the concept when Dr. Fagan was rolling it out with you, and you know it makes eminent sense that they're not the same. 20 here are not 20 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could be teaching across from the hall
Absolutely.
from each other
Okay.
and have different load set. And so what we did is we took this state comp ed funding and we ranked them from highest to lowest. And we assigned a second teacher to a double staff classroom for our 50 most impacted classrooms to support that work. And so we've been doing this for about 3 years now. If you remember at Convocation, we celebrated a couple of those sets of teachers. I believe they were all 3rd grade, where they taught double staff together these highly impacted students, again, beyond their control, and we're able to have student achievement results at better or most of the time higher than those non-impacted classrooms because of that work. And so we are excited today to have a set of these first grade teachers from River Pines Elementary who have stayed committed to this initiative for 3 years. And I wish we could take you all to their classroom. You would be in heaven. But they're going to kind of share what it's like for them in their role now and what they've been doing for the past couple of years together.
Thank you.
Oh, this is Miss Cruz and Miss Valdez.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Cruz. I'm Miss Valdez. We are first grade bilingual teachers. We're going to tell you a little bit of how it works in our classroom. So, you know, we all know that raising a family as a single parent, it's very difficult, right? But if you have a good partner, it gets a little bit easier. We are like a marriage, a good one. Right? So we see our kids, they're our family, and we do everything for them, right? We just want the best for them, and that's how we work. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story so you learn so you can understand a little bit better how our marriage works. So I was a homeroom teacher for 1 year, and honestly, I didn't like it. I felt like a single parent, and I was drowning. I felt it was no good. So I decided to become a substitute teacher. I always go back to River Pines because it's the school that I love. And so the principal at that time, she could see me there, and she said, come back as an interventionist, part-time. Come back as, I was always at that school because I love the school. And then when the co-teaching program started, she invited me to be part of it. And I said, you know what, I can try it because I'm not going to be a single parent. We're going to share everything. And that's how we work. I've been blessed enough to work with 2 amazing teachers, which I've learned a lot from them. Miss Cruz is amazing. And I'm not a single parent anymore. I have a great marriage, which I'm very grateful. And so she's going to tell you a little bit more about how it works in our classroom, all the data and all the tools that we use. And she's here with you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Miss Cruz, as Miss Valdez said. We are a family in our classroom. Starting during community time, we sit together and create strong relationships with students. Then we use the BLS data, which is the bilingual version of the reading assessment, to see where the students' needs are. The BLS components give us detailed information of what the skills to work on. For example, if you're doing guided reading, which is small instruction, Ms. Valdez could be working in simple syllable reading while I am working with reading strategies. Then we would switch, basically giving every student the opportunity to be seen twice. Therefore, you will see a lot of growth from checkpoint to checkpoint. Another example of how we do parallel teaching is during Integrity, which is a sound awareness system. Ms. Valdez will have a group of students that need more direct feedback, while I am working with students that are on level. Did you know that most letters in English and Spanish have the same sound? Well, BLS also gives us important information about their growth in both languages. Finding time to teach both languages is hard. So we do this by making a bridge between what the students already know in Spanish so they can transfer it to English. No need to teach everything twice. So we are providing differentiated instruction in both languages so students are going to be able to read and write in English and Spanish.
By the way, I would like to address the headbands. That's not our fashion style. We use them when we're working in a small group with a small group of kids, simultaneously, as she said. So the kids know they cannot come to us at that time. We're invisible. That they know we are engaged, working with this group of kids, and while the rest of the kids are working in stations independently, So if they have a problem, they need to go and ask a friend how to fix it, because we're not there. That's what it means. That's what it means. I just wanted to express that.
So we have one for every occasion, depending on the season. Now that we have addressed the headband situation, I would like to talk to
What
you
occasion
about-
was the palm tree for? Vacation?
Oh, it's Hispanic heritage. I'm Puerto Rican,
Okay.
so. I would like to talk about goals. One way we foster students' ownership of their growth is by helping them create, keep, and meet those goals. We do this in our classroom. We use these graphs, and students, as they were talking, the BELAS checkpoints are 3 times a year, but we do it every month using running records in between to keep very good information on how the students are growing.
What they need.
And what they need.
At that time.
The goals are oriented by the BELAS assessment, and this is very important in our campus, River Pines Elementary, to have students have ownership of their own growth. Also, I have here a copy of the last year's report for the BELAS. You can see at the beginning of the school year, the amount of students were 33% of them were below grade level, 33% were on level, and 33% were above grade level. At the end of the school year, 25% of the students were on level, and 75% of them were above grade level. Our goal as co-teachers is to help all students grow, excel, and shine in the future. Thank you.
Good morning. As we have mentioned, the literacy assessment supports teachers in implementing readers and successful writers in literacy. One thing that we have noticed with our special education programs is the implementation of the literacy assessment and the individualized decisions that that makes for us. One great example of this is at Hidden Hollow Elementary in Ms. Brittany Ferrero's specialized special education classroom, where she implements the literacy assessment system to make informed, individualized instructional decisions for each of her students. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Brittany Ferrero.
Hi, good morning. So I'm Brittany Ferrero. I teach Applied Skills, which is a specialized program at Hidden Hollow. This is my 8th year in that classroom and in that role. I actually got to student teach at Hidden Hollow, and I was hired the week of my graduation.
They didn't let go of you.
Yeah, and then actually the month of May, I was a crisis sub for Hidden Hollow in the special ed department. So I was in my room doing stuff, getting ready for my new role. So it was best case scenario. They've seen me all through these changes of being a student teacher to a first year teacher to getting married, having 2 kids. They have worked with me and been with me that whole step. So I am so appreciative of Hidden Hollow. So I teach applied skills, and I primarily have kindergarten through 2nd grade. The number of student varies every year, depending on numbers. I've had as many as 7 or so kids at one time. I also have paras. I've had 1 para, I've had 2 paras. I've shared a para, a 3rd para. So we all work as a team. All of my students have an eligibility of intellectual disability and speech impairment. A lot of the students have additional eligibilities such as autism, OHI for maybe a syndrome, and I also have students who have traumatic brain injuries, anything in between. So all of the students are on a modified curriculum, and they all have individual education plans for their IEPs. Each student has goals in their IEPs for reading, math, writing, science, social studies, functional goals, behavior goals, any type of skill that they need to work on. Because we have different grade levels, different eligibilities, different levels, we do a majority of our instruction on one-on-one sessions with me, and then practice with paras in a center scenario. All of my students have access to their grade level peers during community time, specials, lunch, recess, art, field trips, school-wide events, and then special grade level things that they do. Some of my students do have academic instruction in their class with the support of either myself or a paraprofessional. Each student's IEP is created purposefully with collaboration from the art committee using multiple forms of data. And I'm going to talk specifically about the data that the LAS shows us. So when I was first approached in a planning to start doing this, I was skeptical about it. In the past, assessment tools were not as accessible to my students before. Either they had to use a computer, such as the last tool we used, or the students had to work through that independently, and that's a struggle. So neither of these scenarios that they had to be able to utilize were ideal for my students with their multiple disabilities. So I went ahead and did what I was told, did the best that I had, and I found the value in it pretty quickly. So LAS provides specific data on what students can do and the skills that they need to work on next. So that was a great starting point for me. I want to share with you two different students that were impacted by the LAS data that for their IEP plan. The first student was a second grade student in my class. I had had this student since kindergarten, so I was very invested in him. I started wondering if he would be able to be pushed out of the self-contained setting and move to a less restrictive environment. I wanted to make sure that this decision was made carefully and purposefully so that the transition was best for him. The last thing I wanted was to have to move to more restrictive. So I started collecting multiple forms of data, and the LAS assessment was a part of that. So I looked at where he was, and it painted a clear picture that towards the end of the year, it painted a clear picture that while he was still not on grade level, we could provide him access to the general ed curriculum with supports and targeted instruction. So as an art committee made up of his service providers, his general education teacher, administrators, parents, we were able to have a conversation using the LAS as part of that data. We then created individualized academic education goals and set him up for success. This year, this student is now receiving services in the third grade general education classroom with some resource support. So we were able to move him to a less restrictive environment for him. I currently serve a first grade student in my classroom who has also been making steady progress, as shown by previous LAS data. So after giving her the beginning of the year assessment this year, the data showed that she is approaching some grade level expectations. So again, we called an ARD and a committee meeting, and we designed an individualized plan for this student so that she would be able to see more of her instruction time with her grade level peers. So we are currently just pushed her out more. She is thriving in there with the support from our paraprofessional. I look forward to seeing the growth that she makes on her middle of the year and her end of the year. And again, we will look at that data each time it comes up and analyze it and decide, can this student do more? And we will push her to do that. So that's kind of our two success stories and things that we're really proud of and things that we're working towards for our students in our specialized settings. So.
opportunity to stop by Hidden Hollow Elementary on a Friday, Ms. Ferrero in her class has Rudy's Cart, and they go around and provide snacks that the teachers have ordered. They put them together, they deliver them, and it really is amazing. So put in your order and stop by on a Friday. So, virtual learning. We know that COVID provided us many challenges. However, in Humble ISD, we saw those challenges as opportunities. Virtual learning was one of those opportunities. What we have seen is we have students and teachers who truly thrive in this learning environment. Christy Whitaker at Pine Forest Elementary has taught virtual learning since its inception. She effectively implements the literacy assessment system, the digital literacy assessment system, to teach her students to read, write, and excel in all literacy components. Help me welcome Christy Whitaker.
Thank you for having me this morning. Good morning, all of you. So, everyone deserves the opportunity to learn, have the best teacher possible, and have the best education that they possibly can. When I was first asked to be a virtual teacher, I jumped to the occasion because I was excited for a new opportunity. And then I chose to continue to do it because I knew that I could make a difference. Some students need to do virtual due to medical reasons. Some might not excel in a regular setting, and they need to continue to do virtual, but they can go above and beyond in that virtual setting. Some may be fearful for their safety, but they all deserve the very best. My teaching and assessments are very similar to a face-to-face classroom teacher, but I just do things digitally. When I have great tools such as the LAS or Literacy Assessment System, I then follow what we call the instructional cycle. We do what we call, we collect the data, we analyze the data, we interpret the data, then we plan and implement. After interpreting the data, you ask yourself, how can I differentiate the instruction for the range of individual targets in my classroom? What materials or books, etc., will support the concepts and skills? So then you look at all of those different things and go through that information. For example, if your students need help with phonological awareness, you could do different things like phoneme or sound segmenting or activities and games in centers. If you're in a face-to-face classroom, you could do different things at transition time. For example, come to the carpet if you have a color that rhymes with sink, or clap syllables in words while lining up. In a virtual environment, we do a lot of scavenger hunts. For example, find things in your home that rhyme with ol, or excuse me, that start with ol. Or if we're doing alphabetic knowledge, you could show them books and say, point to specific letters that are in the book. Or you might do uppercase and lowercase letter matches. If you see that the student might have difficulty with vocabulary, you would do different turn and talk activities. Within your LAS, if you could see that the student was having difficulty with fluency, you would do different activities and games to practice expression. For example, the student might draw out different emojis with different faces on them. For example, a silly face, and they would read the phrase with a silly voice, or a grumpy face, or a spooky voice. You could do different timed minute reads. If the student in your LAS data, you saw that they had problems with comprehension, you would do different retellings throughout the book, not just at the end of the book. You would do more writing afterwards with them in a writing journal, or even create comic strips with using different speech bubbles, or do different graphic organizers with them. So for our virtual learners, we have great digital tools that we have been provided by our district to give the students the opportunity, just like we would have in a face-to-face environment, to do small group instruction for our guided reading time, where students are able to actually turn their own pages in a book, so that we can also tap in individually and listen to them one-on-one and get valuable insight and information. Teachers are continually doing informal assessments throughout each week to monitor the growth that our students are doing. These informal assessments help you decide your flexible and ever-changing guided reading groups for that differentiated instruction. Now, an important thing to remember is the teacher needs to tell any student concerns and communicate those student concerns to parents or school staff as those student concerns may come up. Last year, as some of my virtual students were attending weekly doctor appointments, and I always get emotional about this. They may have had tubes or wires coming out of them. They still would log on to their weekly Zoom meetings, and they wouldn't miss a beat. But they would go on every single day, come onto their Zoom sessions, and I'm proud to say that 17 out of my 22 students ended the year above grade level. The literacy assessment, or LAS, that we do 3 times a year helps us recognize what we need to focus on with each individual student, whether we're face-to-face or virtual, and helps guide that instruction. Thank you.
Literacy assessments, we're always talking about how we can go deeper to learn more about the students and more ways to support the student. So we are adding a phonics component to our literacy assessments that includes decoding and encoding to help to practice word reading accuracy, so we know how our students are performing and even how they're encoding words, which means spelling, basically. We're also looking at personalized goals. We really believe in the vision of personalized instruction for students, so why wouldn't we have personalized goals for students? That's the next component of our instruction, our literacy assessment system. We're looking at, no matter where you land in the grade level, where are you and where we're taking you as a student. We're looking at grade level expectations. We want to look at each individual student. So that's the next area we're adding to our data analysis component and to our LAS portal. We'll be able to talk with teachers about this. Administrators can talk with their teachers and say, hey, this kid's on a level D. We want him to reach a level J. He's not quite there yet. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you need to support that student. And we always take that positive approach of what do you need to be able to support that student? How can we take you further? So that's our next layer for our literacy assessments that we're excited about. We are rolling out the pilot in January for the phonics components. We are going to ask some campuses to join us with some willing teachers who can give us the right data to make sure we have the right assessment before we roll it out.
We might have some over here.
Yeah. Like that? Okay. January. And then we're going to talk about math, our next thing that we're working on with our math assessments.
You'll notice she gives this to me at the end. She knows.
Give that back, give that
back. It's truly a partnership. I just want to add one thing. We have this phenomenal data, and we have access to it because of Dr. Mo. He just works magic with programming. And they'll call and say, can I get this report? Can I get this? So he continues to up the ante with that. The other thing that we're so excited about is that Rachel Smith and her team have developed math assessments. And they're really exciting. With the pilot group, the feedback was phenomenal. They said this is going to change instruction. And we know from looking at our test scores that we need to do something. So in addition, though, we've trained, I think we only have about 100 teachers left to train now. We did a lot of them during the summer. We'll roll out the first ones in January, and then we'll do an end of the year. So this year we're just going to do 2 of them. And again, there's, it's going to take a little, but the feedback from the teachers that have even been through the training in the summer, has been very, very positive. I just have to make a comment. This is all, it's a partnership. It starts with all of you. We have phenomenal support here, working with the assistant superintendents, working with all of these wonderful people, the campus leaders. I mean, we're all working together, and that's what makes it work. Liz talked about the different layers on it, the instruction, the professional learning, the instructional coaches, all the support mechanisms. And again, it's because you have seen fit to really channel the resources to really impact student learning. So thank you from me and my team and all of this, because you can see what these people are phenomenal, and we have many, many more who could have been here, and the stories are heartwarming. So thanks.
I just wanted to introduce the principals that we do have in the back of the room. So we appreciate their support and the work that they do. So let's start with Rachel Dunn, our principal at River Pines Elementary. And next to her is Mr. Matt Griffin, principal at Timbers Elementary. And then Natalie Wilkes, principal at Hidden Hollow. And Ms. Sloan Simmons, principal at Pine Forest Elementary. So,
I just want to say on behalf of the board, thank you so much for having us here today. Personally, I've had 4 kids go through Humble ISD. My baby is a 12th grader. They've gone to various schools actually throughout the district. Also former educator, family of educators. My mom is in her 55th year of still teaching. Can't get her to retire. But honestly, everything that I heard here today, I'm so proud to be a part of Humble ISD. We've always had phenomenal teachers for all of the kids, all of my kids going through. So it is so wonderful to see that is continuing, and the excitement, recognizing where we have challenges and fixing it, and just the partnerships across the board, and the true dedication from all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough. I mean, literacy is so important, as we all know, for every single child, and I have one of my 4 who struggled a little bit with literacy. So it's just an honor to be here today and to hear how wonderful everyone's doing. So thank you. Thank you.
we appreciate you all very much.
So I have a question. Ms. Whitaker mentioned about the, the students at this point, we want to get them to level to J or K, whatever. What goes into the process to decide for that particular child where you want them to stretch to for that next round? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use a system that's comparable to the Fontes and Pinnell reading assessment system. So they have benchmark goals for each reading level where students should reach based on the time span and the development of that child in that grade level. That's how we determine where students should be. So with our personalized goals, what we look at is, let's say a student isn't on that, this is the grade level expectation that we start off with. That means you're on grade level. If you stay on grade level, by the end of the year, you should be here. But all of our students aren't the same, and you know that, Mr. Scarfo. So what we do is, no matter where you are, we try to transfer that information to where you should be by end of year. This helps us to set goals to keep you on track. And even though we're here, we even push past that to close gaps. So some students maybe, this is your goal, but I still want to get you to the grade level expectation. I'm just going to keep pushing you and keep pushing you as far as you can go to help you get there and close that gap for you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Because remember, our goal too is 1 year of growth for every student, no matter where they enter. We're going to get them a year's worth of growth at a minimum by the end of the year.
So this helps clarify what 1 year of growth means.
Yes.
It's not ambiguous anymore. This is a year of growth no matter where you are.
Part of that is why we don't have grade levels on here as well. So it's about where do we meet the child when they enter at that time.
Just a quick comment. I just appreciate the data. I appreciate all the work in the classroom and everything, because I think Dr. Fagan alluded to the STAR, the way of approaching and all that stuff. About 10 years ago, when they changed the whole way they did STAR, Dr. Sconzo at the time came to the board and said, I'm just going to tell you all, whenever the new ratings come out, we're going to drop about 50%. And most people didn't understand why. And it's because the STAR is written 2 grade levels above. And approaching grade level is actually grade level and so forth. And a lot of people don't understand that. Then at our last board meeting, we had a conversation about the new rating system. And I was in a training session a couple of weeks ago with Region 4 that really kind of broke it down. 70% of that score is based on either your STAR score, or it's based on kids. What am I trying to say?
CCMR?
Yeah, how kids are improving. And so whichever score is best.
Yes.
So if you didn't have a lot of learning loss, which we didn't have a lot of growth, so we had to go with STAR. The STAR score, STAR achievement.
Yeah.
So it's 2 totally different things. So that's why you may have a school district that has a 60% graduation rate that had a higher score than Humble ISD because their student improvement was greater, even though their test scores were down, their graduation levels were down, and so on. Thus, the total reworking of the accountability system again, because it just doesn't work. And so to be able to take the data that we've seen this morning, which y'all do a couple times a year in public meetings, it really shows what our students are really doing and how they're improving year over year, beginning year, mid-year, end of year, and so forth, which validates when we go out and talk about how great Humble ISD is. This data validates that, not the garbage that's printed in the newspaper.
Well, and I just want to say, from a former administrator in this district, this is a gift, okay? To say that we have quality, you guys have quality professional development now that is right on target. And I mean, it's continuous inside your buildings. I mean, listening to the stories of teachers working together and collaborating and all the personnel that is used, the resources that are provided that we've needed for so long. But I'm going to go back to layman's terms. Sitting down with a parent and being able to tell that parent exactly where my child needs help. And that I can sit there with that team and say, okay, you're going to tell me, okay, we're going to work together to make a year's growth. Now, he may not have started on K level or first grade level, but we're going to make a year no matter what. Okay, but we're going to put everything in realistic terms and that I know what to work with him at home with. And this is not just some fictitious whatever, to say. But now I know exactly what I'm working with. And that I'm working with a team. And that we're all in it together. And so listening to y'all now, it's wonderful. I mean, it truly is. It is a true experience of excellent education. So thank you again, all of you.
We know y'all have to get back to work.
Yes.
So I'll close with this. Commissioner Moran, and I know you were in that meeting. I know Lori Toomey was in this meeting. He basically said this is not a direct quote, but that there are basically 3 school districts that he looks at for things like literacy assessments and to kind of even gauge some of the things that he's doing, and that we're one of them. So he's watching. So just wanted to share that. But thank you so much.
And thank you everyone very much for being here and sharing your stories and for being an Humble ISD. You made us so proud.
Oh, yes, please.
I mean, you're wonderful spokespeople for the profession, for the work, and the love for your students comes through really things that you don't maybe love. So